Hi everyone, PJOP here with another Sermon on Two Wheels where I reflect on life, faith, and our identity in Christ, all while riding my bike. This morning, I'm starting right outside my home neighborhood. It's my usual morning commute. I'll ride down the familiar streets towards Jichuk Station, hop on the subway, and make my way into Myeongdong, where my church office is. It's a rhythm I've followed for several years now, but today, I want to slow it down a little bit and reflect on something deeper. And that is, what makes a place home? I've lived with my family in Goyang for about 6 years now. Honestly, it's been really nice. Now, Goyang is one of those rare places where you can still find a taste of suburbia right next to the mega city that is Seoul. My kids, they can ride their bikes. It's, quieter here. There are quieter streets and you can still actually breathe a little easier than the big city of Seoul. But my work and my calling, they're still in Seoul, so most days I make this commute. I've lived in Seoul or the surrounding area for nearly 25 years now. That's a long time, longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. And yet, here's the funny thing. At times, it still doesn't feel like home. Seoul often feels more like just a place I live. Which brings me to this question. What is home? If I had to define it, home isn't just an address or a place where you sleep at night. Home is where you belong. It's where you're known. It's where your story is safe and welcome, and that's not always easy to find. This whole idea of belonging reminds me of something I wrote about in my memoir, Who I Am. Now let me share that reflection with you here. I want to heal, I want to feel what I thought was never real. I want to let go of the pain I felt so long, erase all the pain till it's gone. I want to heal, I want to feel like I'm close to something real. I want to find something I've wanted all along. Somewhere I belong. One morning in the summer of 2017, I woke up to the sad and shocking news that Linkin Park's lead vocalist, Chester Bennington, who famously sang these lyrics to the song Somewhere I Belong, had taken his own life. Now, I used to really love Linkin Park, and Somewhere I Belong was one of my favorite songs. I never paid too much attention to the meaning of the lyrics before this, but on that day, with so many questions around why someone so young, promising, and seemingly successful would suddenly take his own life, it occurred to me that perhaps Chester was not able to find a place in this world where he felt like he belonged. And because of that, perhaps he had lost all hope. I haven't listened to a lot of Linkin Park since that day. Where do I belong? That's a question we all wrestle with at some point in our lives. Deep down, every one of us wants to know that we belong somewhere, a place that feels familiar and safe, a place we can return to no matter how far we've gone. Now, the shops may change, some signs may fade, but the streets and buildings remain. We know that place by its unique, comforting smells, like morning dew on the pavement, or the scent of fresh bagels baking down the street. Most importantly, it's a place where we are known and loved just as we are, where people celebrate our joys without us and carry our burdens as if they were their own. It's a place where everyone knows your name and you know theirs. We all long for a place like that, a place we can call home, a place where we truly belong. So, where are you from? Although I live in Korea, my vocation as a pastor at an international church constantly brings me into contact with people from all over the world, many of whom are far from the place they call home. So, whenever people around here meet someone for the first time, one of the most common questions that's asked is, "So, where are you from?" Sometimes it's asked to gain a better understanding of who we're speaking with. While we don't want to stereotype, knowing someone's background can offer a bit of cultural or societal context. But more than not, I think the question is just meant to be an icebreaker. It's the kind of casual conversation that goes something like this. So, where are you from? Oh, I'm from somewhere. Oh, really? I've never been there before. I'd love to visit someday. And then just like that, the conversation moves on. But for me, this question has always been a tough one. Not because people really care that much, it's usually just small talk, but because for me, it brings back a flood of memories, both good and bad. There was a time when I wanted to say I was from New Jersey. I enjoyed my brief time there when I was a kid, and it holds a special place in my heart. But that was way back in the 1980s, and it only lasted a couple of years. It's been so long that saying I'm from New Jersey now just feels outdated. I guess the most technically accurate answer would be that I'm from Daegu, a southern city in Korea. But Daegu holds a lot of bitter memories for me personally, memories I'd rather not revisit. So if I can avoid saying that I'm from there, I usually do. Now these days, when I ask the same question to someone who's a TCK, a third culture kid, someone raised in a different culture from their parents, I often hear them say, well, it's complicated. And when I hear that, I simply nod and reply, I get it. Because I do. It's complicated often means it's a long story, and honestly, I don't even know where home is anymore. Many TCKs are still on a journey to find where they belong. There was a time when I used to say it's complicated too. But I eventually stopped because whenever I said that, it opened the door to more questions. Suddenly I'd be giving a condensed version of my life story. That I was born in Korea, moved to New York at age 3, lived in Tennessee, then New Jersey, then Korea again, then Oregon, then Washington, then Korea again, and on and on and on. So now, when people ask me where I'm from, I just simply say, Seattle. Now it's the easiest answer I could say. I could say Seoul, but that's where I live now, not where I'm from. And when I do say Seoul, the next question is often, wow, how come your English is so good? Which again opens a whole new can of explanations I'd rather not get into. So, Seattle it is. And hey, by the way, if you're enjoying this ride and this reflection so far, would you take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe? It really helps me keep sharing these sermons on two wheels with you. Thanks a lot. Now, all of this searching for home and belonging is not just a personal story. It's part of the bigger human condition. We are all, in one way or another, longing for a place where we can say, this is where I belong. And here's the good news of the gospel. In Christ, God makes his home with us, and he welcomes us into his family. Belonging isn't just about where you were born or the streets you grew up on. It's about being known and loved by the God who made you. Jesus tells us in John 14, in my Father's house are many rooms. I go to prepare a place for you. Now that's home. That's the ultimate belonging we're all looking for. And in the meantime, as we live in this world, whether it's Goyang or Seoul or Seattle or wherever life takes me or us, we get to practice belonging by being the family of God together. Church, at its best, is supposed to be that taste of home, a place where everyone knows your name, where you are loved, and where you are never alone. So here I am, pedaling down the street again, and these streets have become familiar to me. 6 years is enough time for a place to start feeling like home. And yet, there's still that tension. Korea is my home, but also not quite. Seattle is my home, but also not fully. Maybe you feel that too, like you're always a little bit in between. Maybe that's the point. Maybe our lives here are meant to be lived as pilgrims, people on the move, people on the way. And in that in-between space, God reminds us that our true home is with Him. That's why no matter where you are from, no matter what your passport says, you can find belonging in Christ. You are not alone. You are not homeless. You are a child of God, and your home is in His presence, now and forever. Thanks for joining me on my commute today. I'm reminded that belonging isn't just about where you live, it's about who you are with and ultimately who you belong to in Christ. So until next time, keep pedaling forward, keep the faith, and remember, you are never alone. You belong. You belong to Christ. Peace out.